Oh, we can share it. Maybe we can share it, Mike.
That's what I was. That was my very first suggestion.
Okay, it
That
was,
we
and I
could
said
share
if
it,
it,
Mike.
I
Like
said,
I said
I,
that was my suggestion.
I said if it
Just
didn't,
saying.
I know, but I said if it didn't work.
Why are we not recording?
With your best friends Trey Sterling and Matt, the film Schmucks. All right, Tenet.
Oh, what a
I
fucking
forgot we
Man.
shit
did the
show.
movie at this point. It was okay. Anyway, everyone, thanks for watching the film Fuckaroonies, and
Cut it.
cut it.
Cut
I
it.
will actually cut that.
All right, are
So,
we starting?
yeah, if we're starting, does anyone want to go first?
Oh. Well, you know what?
Well,
Matt. We've been waiting so long for Sterling
That's
to
what I'm
watch this movie.
thinking.
We need to have him go
That's
first.
exactly what I'm thinking.
Yeah, please,
okay, but
Sterling.
before I go first, we have a special guest, don't we?
Oh, the
He wants to
Tenet.
prolong this.
The
Yeah.
fans demanded it. I mean, I've been getting emails the last 3 weeks. We've talked about this Christie character several times. Everyone's like, "Who is this philosopher who has all these great points about movies?"
They didn't believe that she existed. You had to prove it. Here she
We
is,
had to
the one,
prove
the only
it
Christy.
for the 5 subscriber celebration. Christy, oh shit, is on the line for the probably this is going to be the most discussion heavy. So I feel like we needed Christy on this one because I'm not going to
Yeah.
have
Oh
a
yeah.
lot to say. I'll say that. Say hello.
Hi.
So, okay, but
Good
okay,
enough.
Sterling started off.
Oh man. Okay, so a little bit of context. Christopher Nolan's definitely, well, I wouldn't say definitely, but he's probably my favorite director. I enjoy most of his movies, um, and I really appreciate the lengths that he goes to, the creativity that he puts into his films. I think kind of the best way to describe his filmmaking is he brings kind of an art quality to his films, but they're usually blockbuster films at the same time. So um, I really appreciate his work. That being said, I was a little disappointed in this movie, to be honest. uh, it was just so overwhelming at times. Like the craftsmanship is there; it's really well made. Uh, I was entertained overall, but especially the second half, I really think I need to watch it a second time. I think it definitely is made for multiple viewings. Um, but just going off my first viewing, I just had a lot that was there's just a lot to be desired from my perspective, and ultimately, I think it's one of his weaker films story wise. Just the way the overall story kind of came about.
Now,
So
I'll just ask this really quick: do you think the story wasn't good because it wasn't immediately approachable the first time you watched it, or do you think do you think it's bad because it's convoluted, or do you think it's bad because it's
well,
uninteresting, or something along those lines?
well, first of all, I don't know if I said it was bad. I don't think it's a bad story. I just think there are certain things about it that require such a suspension of disbelief, um, that I just couldn't quite go to. I guess if that makes any sense. Um,
Interesting.
and and overall, I think the pacing. I totally understand. Like it's probably intentional. The pacing, the way it was edited, is very quick, very fast, and I totally understand why they would do that for a story like this. I just think there were times where they could have kind of let things sit just for a bit to kind of get the full impact of what they were trying to explain, especially like a lot of the kind of the world building things, like the lore of the movie. Um, there was just a lot that just didn't make sense to me, honestly, and yeah, so it just kind of it didn't, especially the final act. It was just really kind of overall unsatisfying. But it was cool. It was cool to look at for sure.
Look, I don't want to piss in your tea, so I'm gonna let Trey do it. Trey, you're up next.
For the love of God, that was a horrible review. Jesus Christ.
What was horrible
maybe we
about
should.
it?
Maybe we should have waited for him to watch it 3 or 4 times, boys and girls. Holy fuck! But anyway, pardon my language. Anyway, I mean, I think he's exactly right. This is set up perfectly for a second, third viewing. Even I was halfway through my third viewing. I'm like, fuck, I'm about to go through this again. Like I was lost. Even though the second time I found a lot of things I missed, and the third time I was actually like, wait, why? I was starting to think about it more because I've seen it a few times. Anyway, real quick overall thoughts. I was very impressed with the film. It is very, very loud. We can talk about that later, maybe. The music is very loud throughout in some of those scenes. Even in my living room, I'm like, damn, this is a loud movie. So the sound editing was to be desired. That's probably a negative mark on the movie. But just if you pay attention to this movie, just like Interstellar, Inception, he thinks so far outside the box. Every angle you want to look at, he thinks about it. And I love that about him as a creator, that he can come up with these ideas and put them to film and make them even good, let alone great. Like, that's impressive to me. And I think he is the best director in the world right now. And I was very, very impressed, and I really like this movie a lot. We'll dive into details later. Whoever wants to go next, go. I loved it.
Well, I'll go next because you'll just steal what I have to say. So.
Yes.
I really like
yes.
This better be fucking good.
Well, no, okay. I like that it's like really challenging because I think like a lot of times people forget like that they can actually like challenge you, you know, when they're making movies and stuff, and they just kind of make it easy. But like the first time I watched it in theaters, like especially the first third of the movie, I was like, I'm too dumb to watch this movie. I don't understand it. And then like it kind of came together by the end, but it was still really confusing, and we talked about it for like hours. Second viewing, it like the first part made more sense, but then the second part lost me. So I don't know. I like that. I like that it left me confused. So
yeah.
Fuck. Let me come up with something new real quick. No, I the first time there was literally like similar to what Christy said. The first like half of the movie, the first third of the movie, there's literally I at some point I was really into it. The music and everything got me really into it. And you're like, what's going on? And I like that in a movie where you're like, what's going on? Because usually it's satisfying when it comes together. That first part of the movie, I remember the moment was when he's talking to Michael Caine. I remember that being the moment when I was like, I couldn't even tell someone what this movie is about. I have no idea what the fuck I'm watching. I remember that being the moment. I was like, why is Michael Caine here? What the fuck's going on? And so I think it starts off really hitting you hard. Second, and then to me, the second half of the movie, once things start rolling a little bit, I was way more like, at least I know what's going on and I kind of understand what the mission is. So at least I know what the goal is kind of in the movie, even if there's some things I'm not getting. Second time watching it, I feel like most of the loose ends and the stuff that I was really annoyed about the first time through, I mean, we'll get to it, but there were some big questions the first time I watched it that I was almost annoyed. I was like, why the fuck did they do this? Because it kind of ruins the whole thing. And then the second time I watched it, I was like, oh, I picked it up on this time that it actually answered a lot of questions with a rewatch. And maybe that the movie's designed this way, to rewatch it. And that can be a flaw, I guess, because most average moviegoers are going into the movie. They're going to be like, what the fuck? That was garbage. I don't understand what I'm watching, and never watch it again. And I could see that. I think we should do a follow up at some point since we've already watched it. I wonder if Sterling watches it again sometime in the future. We can do a Tenet Part 2 and see if his
No,
view changes because it'd be cool to see it in real time if he actually has a different opinion. Although I liked it the first time I saw it. So,
yeah. Well, overall, like I do like the movie. I think technically speaking, it's I mean it's supremely well made.
yeah.
Especially like even though I didn't really, even though I was lost in a lot of the third act, like just the scale of that whole set, like it blew my mind. Like how big, like just there was so much going on, and like a lot of that was practical, which is just crazy. Like
Yeah.
how much time and effort goes into that. And so no, from a technical, I mean the music was great. Kind of going back to what Trey's saying, a lot of people have said this, but um, like if I didn't have the subtitles on, I there are parts of this movie where I would not understand any of the dialogue because this the sound mixing is just the sound mixing at points is just not good. Like objectively, I just don't think it's good. It's just
I think it's something I didn't notice because the first time I watched it was in the theater, and it's a little easier to pick up voices in a theater than on a home TV. And then the second time we watched it, I don't know, me and Christy almost always watch movies with subtitles because there's that weird issue. We don't have a sound system, and if you're watching anything on a TV, voices are always quiet and action is really loud. And so I didn't really, and I actually wonder if that's what helped clue me in a lot this time was I watched it with subtitles.
yeah.
The first time I watched it, I was like, what is the main character's name? Am I stupid? Did I miss it? And then the second time I watched it, I realized it never actually says his name.
The
It
protagonist.
literally says
That's it.
protagonist
Yeah.
every time he talks. Kind of interesting.
I kind of like that's his name.
It's pretty
I don't know.
cool,
That's kind of
yeah.
cool. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead, Trey.
Well, I've been reading a lot of people saying that they couldn't understand the dialogue throughout the movie, and I've seen it, like I said, 3.5 times. And the dialogue to me, in the beginning, people complain about with the mask on and talking to the guy in the opera. I'm like, I could understand it perfectly, theater and in my home. So dialogue I could understand throughout the whole movie, but going back to what you're saying, the level of which the action is compared to the environment around it was way too loud. But for me, I could totally understand the dialogue throughout the whole film.
Well, I want to get into a pro because we've been, I want people to know that this movie is a masterpiece. But the no, as far as sound, I will say this: first time I watched the movie, I thought that the soundtrack was really good. The score was really good and really interesting. Second time I watched it, I appreciated it way even more because I noticed this the first time I noticed it in the movie. It's the first time that Robert Pattinson and the protagonist meet. Well, the first time the protagonist meets Robert Pattinson, let's say that. But the music, I was noticing the first time that a lot of the notes sound inverted, like it sounds like they're being played backwards, and I thought that was really interesting. Watching it again, they do this crazy shit in the movie where somehow the score is seamless, but that battle scene at the end, every time it's showing the blue team, the music is inverted. I mean, at least the notes that are being played are inverted. You can hear the music is like it's doing that like meow, meow, meow,
Yeah.
meow. And then it would seamlessly switch when they were going forward. It would be normal again. And the way that they did that, so like kind of it didn't feel like jarring to the ear, like they keep changing it or something. Like I only picked up on it the second time. I thought that was really cool. So overall, the score, and there's certain moments where the score, some of those moments like kind of got me hyped as far as like the emotional intensity and stuff. So I gotta say
Yeah.
that for the score, great. I thought it really was good, even if it was
I
overpowering at times. I would just say that like
I,
Yeah.
I agree.
just as far as music, it was really good.
Mhm. I just I just think there were certain sequences like the opera sequence actually wasn't that bad for me. Like even without the subtitles, I think I could understand the dialogue like fine. I just think there were certain sequences, especially sometimes there'd be exposition being said really quickly, but then there'd be the music kind of overpowering it a little bit. But But I will say a good thing about the movie I really liked is I really did enjoy the relationship between Neil, Robin Pattinson's character, and the protagonist. I thought their dynamic was actually really good.
No, yeah, I did too.
The time traveler's wife arc that they had going on was really great. I really enjoyed that, especially.
Nice.
I mean, honestly, I did get a little. The acting. I guess we can get into the acting here, but the final sequence, when the moment that the protagonist realizes that Robert Pattinson's going to die and that they've had this long friendship, even though to him it's only been a couple weeks, depending on how you measure time, and he's, he just kind of starts getting those eyes, and the music is intense. I was like, damn, that was actually the only moment in the movie that gets a little like emotional. Other than, this is where I think the acting is actually best. The girl Catherine and and Sater, that guy is legitimately scary and intimidating when he's talking to her, and her acting is really good. Like, their dynamic is legitimately makes you uncomfortable because you're like, fuck, this feels way too real. The scene with the belt, when he gets the belt ready, I was like, damn, this guy's like that. When that close up on Sater, when he's like, if I can't have you, no one can, which kind of explains his whole dynamic of like trying to kill the whole world because he's dying. But it's just like, man, that was some good fucking acting, and I was like, it was fucking intimidating.
Well, when she pulls a gun on him the first time,
Woo!
And when he slaps her and then kicks her while she's down and spits on her, like, he screams in her face, like, God, she's an animal.
It's intense.
That guy is awesome. I always forget his name.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a great director. I mean, in real life.
He's a director?
I mean, he did the first Thor. What's it? He did the first Thor movie.
Oh, that was Kenneth Branagh. Holy shit, I forgot.
Kenneth Branagh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kenneth Branagh, he's amazing.
Chops. Holy shit, get this guy a fucking Oscar.
Yeah, he's in a lot of. He was in Hamlet, like in the '90s. He's amazing. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so is he actually wrestling?
No, I don't think so.
Damn,
he's a great actor.
That's even more amazing. I just assumed it was some actor.
Yeah.
Christy, slap him across the face with your 2 pages of notes, and let's hear him.
Well, okay, no, he overhyped that. I was mostly just like trying to keep track of time because the first time I was so like overwhelmed by it.
She's writing an equation
in a good
there.
way. Yeah, he's dramatic, but yeah. So I don't know. I actually thought Catherine's acting was really, really good, and that actress really made a lot of it for me. Like, the way that she portrayed the whole, like, I'm trapped in this marriage and, like, it's for my son's benefit, and I don't know, maybe it just pulled on my heartstrings because I have a son, and, like, but, like, she sells that line where she's like, this is my life now, in that first scene where they're, like, eating together. I think that's where emotionally I got really hooked in the movie when I saw it in theaters the first time. Like, I was like, okay, now I'm invested, and it was mostly because of, like, the way that she did that.
I agree to the point that the moment in the movie where I actually started feeling a little bit of ground, like, oh, I kind of am getting a footing, was the first conversation that they have together, the girl and the protagonist. Because that was when I was like, okay, something I understand is happening. I kind of understand this woman and her plight, at least. Also, that kitchen scene, bam, boom, 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 bam, ooh, God, bah.
I mean,
woo, baby, that was hot.
He is Denzel's son. I mean, damn, he can kick some ass.
Well, is that really Denzel's son? Are you making all this shit up?
Yeah.
No, that's Denzel Washington's son.
I didn't know
that. I didn't know any of that.
God damn.
Yeah.
I will say
He's
this.
Awesome.
I think this is the best, like, action, like, as far as like all the Christopher Nolan movies, I think this is the best shot action and the best choreography out of all of them.
Oh,
I think.
Yeah.
I was gonna disagree because I was gonna be like Dark Knight, fucking all this shit, and then I was like, wait, the fucking backwards fight where he fights himself.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
both times
Yep.
you see it, it's fucking in the set. By the time you watch it the second time, I was sitting there
Yeah.
like stunned, like that's so fucking cool.
Yeah, because you figure out that he's fighting himself, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And
Crazy.
like I was saying in my first part was like how he Christopher Nolan thinks of this stuff and how to choreograph it.
Yeah.
Obviously, he has other people working with him and for him, but just to write it on paper, like the idea of it, and because as we watch it first forward and then we see it backward, and it's really cool. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, in another scene like that, that's really great. Even if I don't understand exactly what's happening some of the time, the moment when both teams are firing a rocket at the building,
Oh
so
yeah,
that it doesn't collapse or whatever. Regardless of how confusing the scene is, that shot of the building being shot from reverse and forward is really cool. And I don't even know how they did that. I guess it was visual effects, but it was so cool.
It was dope.
Real quick about that scene, I feel like we were going to go backwards because of the movie, but we'll go back and forth. Just real quick, the ending, that scene when they're going forward and backwards, the two teams. I'm still confused and kind of not mad, but irritated that that the team going backwards is going a lot slower than the team going forward. Even though they're running, when we watch their scene, they're going really fast. Do you know what I'm saying?
I think I see what you're saying.
I don't think I
They look because they're going back. The shot from them, because he's trying to show how crazy the scene is. And they're showing both teams. One team's running backwards back to the thing, and they're going forward.
Yeah.
They're going really slow.
I see what you mean. I didn't actually think about that, but that's a good point.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? They should be going the same speed. Like they're running. I just really confused that.
Well, to add on to that, like overall, that last act was pretty cool, but I think what kept it from being like as satisfying as I thought it could be is like, I don't know. I think there were shots of the opposing forces, but I really don't remember that many shots of like the guards. Like it seemed like people were shooting at nothing.
Yeah,
a lot of the
times. I saw the people this time because I paid attention. Because the first time I was like, I don't think I've seen a single bad guy. Who are they shooting?
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't even know who they're fighting. To be frank, I know this
and that took out. Yeah, and that took out some of the stakes for me a little bit. It was like it just looked a little goofy, like at times.
They're just
like,
shooting at buildings and shit.
We do see bad guys at the very beginning. You know how they're running towards they have like the little mound hill. They're shooting, having a big machine gun, and they're like 5 feet from it, and someone throws a grenade in it and explodes the bunker, and they run over it. There's like two bad guys in it.
The opposing team, because we know that the good team has the red armband and the blue armband, and they have like darker clothes. The bad guys are wearing kind of like lighter, like what looks like army kind of camo, but it really only shows like one shot, I think, with them, kind of, other than the guy shooting in the window, and then there's the guy that is setting up the tripwire, and other than that, it's confusing too because I guess we know that it's like, okay, this is Sator's guys, and also whoever the Satyrs in the future, whoever gave Sator the stuff, like the people in the future. But it's still kind of vague. Like we never really see an enemy. We see Sator, and then all of a sudden we're seeing this like time force that they're fighting or whatever, and it's like that is one big thing I'd say that it's like, yeah, I wish they established the enemy a little better because then the stakes would have been higher. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is like overall, I understand like the main plot points of this movie. Like they're pretty simple as far as they're basically trying to avoid destruction, like, or because the future military or whatever, the future Earth doesn't want the mistakes of the past Earth to come back. I guess they want to start fresh, basically. So I get that. It's just the way it gets to the resolutions, like the way they get there. There's just details within that are just really, I think, kind of convoluted and edited kind of way too quickly that I just missed a lot of pieces. So I don't know. That's kind of how I felt.
Yeah. I think the movie, if it were less vague, it would be less fun to talk about.
Sure.
Now, maybe
Sure.
as a
No,
viewing experience, you could watch it more, and that should be the point. But to me, I think Nolan has had convoluted stories here and there. Nothing as crazy as this one. And I think at this point he was like, I'm just gonna make something really dense that I want to make, and like people can figure it out if they want to. But
yeah,
but
which
I
is
think I'm
fair.
biased to the point as I like talking about this shit, like the theoretics of it and how did this happen and that. So I know that I'm a little biased, like to the fact I kind of like things that are vague. But the thing I
Yeah.
like about this movie is all the pieces are there, even stuff that I thought all the pieces are there for what's happening in the story. And then as far as the vague stuff, a big thing in it is that they're like ignorance is our ally for the future or whatever. And I realized that that's sort of a theme is like, I think you're supposed to feel disoriented like the protagonist is.
And I appreciate that they reference that, especially like Robert Pattinson's character literally says, "Does your head hurt yet?" Basically,
Yeah.
which is like a wink at the audience. So I appreciate the self awareness, and also near the end, uh, Neil tells the protagonist that you're halfway there. I believe that's what he says to him.
Yeah.
Which to me kind of implies that a second viewing of this movie actually benefits you because you can kind of think of it from Neil's perspective instead of the protagonist's
Yeah.
perspective.
And I'll say
So
this, and I want to ask you this, Sterling. Was there anything suspicious to you watching it? Like, oh, Robert Pattinson has met him before, or like any outstanding stuff to you? Because the first time I watched it, I really had no idea. I was like, this is some guy that he's helping. And the second time I watched it, I was like, there is some stuff that's almost feels obvious, but somehow they did it
yeah,
with the
The drink.
dialogue where it's not. It wasn't obvious the first time I watched it. The second time, I'm like, damn,
When he orders a
yeah,
drink.
the Diet Coke, yeah.
Hmm.
yeah. That was, I guess, yeah. You're right. You're right about that. I mean, I didn't know exactly that the reveal would be that he knew him, but I definitely thought he would be someone.
Important or something.
I thought he would be from the future. That was
Yeah.
my prediction. He was going to be someone from the future that was going to work to help the protagonist. So
I think the thing I remember the first time watching it when he is chasing the guy, he doesn't know, but he's chasing the protagonist, and then he pulls his mask off. I remember watching it going, that was a weird angle. I was like, why did they use that
yeah,
cinematographer? I was like, that was weird. And then it was interesting that it was important later.
yeah.
Yeah.
You can go check.
Well, you both were kind of saying something weird, well, not weird, but now you're making maybe me more confused now. When Matt was mentioning the future affecting the wanting the past to be destroyed, maybe I'm confused what you were trying to say.
That was Sterling.
Or maybe that's Sterling, yeah. But you were mentioning the future. But didn't they establish, because you were saying they were communicating with the future or whatever, anyway, giving the people from the future or trying to manipulate the past. Didn't they establish that Denzel's son was the main guy from the future setting all of this
Yes.
up?
Yeah, they did
Yeah,
do that.
they did.
Like he's the one that was helping Surtur or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're on the same page.
He wasn't the bat. He wasn't helping Seder. He's fighting the
But
people
but
helping Seder.
he to me they were saying that he is because because everything. Well, we'll talk about this in depth in a little bit about the grandfather paradox, but uh, he's the future because he's the one helping from the future because the things have to stay the same for them to come out the right them to be on the right end of the victory. Because that's why he kills the Indian chick. Like, hey, it was me that was in charge. I'm the boss.
Yeah,
Remember that?
but there's two force. There's TENET organization, which is sort of the good one.
It's an organization.
Well, as far as
Yeah.
we know, there's the people the lady or whatever he talks about in the future, who's sort of like Oppenheimer or whatever, who creates this thing that can
The metal.
potentially reverse entropy on Earth and destroy everything. And she doesn't want to like. I know that there's two forces we know. One who wants to destroy everything, and then one who is trying to fight that. Because they talk about.
I thought that was
and
the Russian guy that wanted to destroy everything.
yes, well, that's my point. Well, no, the people in the future used him as a tool in the past.
No,
Yeah.
no, I think they established that because he was dying, he was the one that was making the decision to just kill everything because he was selfish
Yeah, well, that's
and
true.
wanted to destroy everything.
That's true, but he was choosing the time of when it was destroyed. The people from the future gave him all the pieces to do it.
Yeah.
Well, then I'm lost, and I thought that was all
So
Denzel's
I'm just
kid.
saying, I as far as I understand it, the protagonist is not trying to destroy the Earth. He's trying to stop it, and he's fighting some people in the future. He was the one who set up
He is the future.
TENET organization and all of that, as far as we know, in the future.
Oh man,
But
see,
as
that's
far as I
why the
understand it,
movie's so good.
yeah.
It's a time loop.
Because I think the dialogue they choose them to say that, hey, it's been me the whole time, I'm the boss, that he is the future, that he is the one that set all of this up to go all according to plan. Like, that was all him. And then Patrick Pattinson, whatever his name is, said, "Hey, we get a tussle later on. You're halfway there or whatever." Anyway, I looked at it differently then. I'm like, because you guys are saying that TENET's an organization. I never understood that part. Then I never heard that being an organization. I just thought it was a word to use to get access to certain information.
Well, that's true. I'm using it as an organization. I'm not saying the movie said that, but it just seemed like, and I could be wrong about all this. You could be right, but it seemed like there are two forces fighting, the future and the past. But there's a scene, and I actually missed this the first time I watched it because I went to go take a pee, which is ironic because the way he explains the metaphor in it is pissing on the wind, which is Robert Pattinson's talking about that it's actually harder for the people in the future to do it because they're having to fight it's harder to fight the past or something. Yeah, fuck off, Sterling. And
Thank God he's gone. Oh shit. This is an ongoing thing, Christy.
If you apply Einstein's theory of relativity there, then I do think that the crux of the affirmative action clause of Prop 8 would be that the protest. I'm sorry, Sterling. I had to. No, but you could be right, Trey. It's just that's the way I was perceiving it, was that there's kind of two forces fighting, and he was in charge. He was the head of the good force.
Yeah, obviously we hear different things. Like I said, I think because I focused in on him saying that, hey, it's been me the whole time, bitch. It's over. You know, it's the back of her head. I just took it that way. So I would.
Well, it's essentially a time loop, right? It's essentially a time loop, right? Is that kind of the principle? Like,
yeah, that's why I feel like he is the future, like, because he's always a step ahead. He's been a step ahead the whole time.
I don't think there's a loop,
basically.
But...
Well, because he becomes basically in charge of it, and then I think the implication is that he recruits Neil when he's a kid, because I think Neil is Max. I think Neil is Max, the daughter of Catherine.
What?
Get out of here! Get out of here!
That's a fanfic waiting to happen.
That doesn't make sense to me because they're both alive at the same time.
Get out of here, man! Christy, what were you gonna say before? Oh, man.
I read that fan theory. Okay, anyway.
Well, I can read it because I'm not buying it for a second. Because
that's some Tumblr headcanon right there.
Yeah, that's some Reddit bullshit. Christy, what were you gonna say before that?
No, I don't know exactly, but so he has that conversation. Sater has the conversation on the phone with the protagonist, right? And in that one, he's talking about how like the future, there is a force in the future that sent him the stuff that's not Tenet that like needs this to happen because their oceans rose and their rivers went dry. Like he says it all romanticized, but basically like that the future is they're trying to save themselves and sacrifice the past to do it, is what I got from that phone call at least. And then like I think Tenet was in the future setting all of this up, but that there is also another opposing force. That there's two things at play.
That makes sense.
That was at least mine.
No, I mean yours is that's a lot more sense than Matt said. That was confusing me. Hey, speaking of Tenet, the word Tenet, I wrote this down on my second set of notes because I said I lost my first set and I found them. You know how the guy in the boat when he wakes up from killing himself, he's like, "Welcome to the afterlife," and he's like, "Use this word wisely. Don't be careful to use the word Tenet." And then the next scene we hear him speak, he says Tenet in the first sentence. He says to that chick. I was like, "Oh, that was real quick to just start throwing Tenet." Did you guys notice that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of those things where it moves really fast, and you're like, okay, he's putting on a uniform, he's in a building. How does he know what? That's actually the vaguest part of the movie is to me is they don't even make it completely clear. As far as we understand, he's with the CIA at first because he says that the capsule is CIA. Other than that, after that, once he does that, who the fuck is he talking to? We're assuming that the guy who's talking to him, which we never see that guy again, by the way. I don't know who that was. That guy on the boat. That's the most.
He could be the bad guy in the next one.
Is that opening scene? So I guess we can assume that guy works for him in the future. Tenet. He works for the protagonist later, and he's telling him, "Hey, use this wisely," and giving him the info. And that the way they recruit for that is through this like elite kind of test of like finding these people who have done this thing. But yeah. That to me, that's the most confusing thing. Where they could have just added a couple more details. Here's an interesting.
Also, wait, was that chick pregnant? Because we had a debate about that. I said that she was pregnant, and he didn't remember that she was pregnant.
The lab coat. The girl in the lab coat. Did she?
I didn't notice that.
I didn't notice it at all.
Like
maybe that's Robert Pattinson's mom.
Oh my god.
Here's one real quick funny thing that I noticed. We were talking about the same thing with the pill. You remember when he's being tortured in the chair by the railroad track? You know that scene right after the opera? I thought it was hilarious. I wrote it down twice. And I said, being tortured, guy standing on his phone. What is he watching? YouTube? Because he's the background is on his phone the whole time.
That's hilarious.
He's just on his phone the whole time. What is he doing?
I got a funny for y'all. I noticed this time. When in the airport, after Robert Pattinson looks at all the fire alarms and all that shit, when him and the protagonist are actually going into the building in their suits, the guy's like, "You guys want anything to drink?" And Robert Pattinson's like, "No." And the one guy's like, "I'll take an espresso." And then in the next scene, he's just carrying a full espresso with a dish with him in a suitcase. And I'm like, why? Well, you couldn't drink it in the lobby? What happened? Why are you carrying it? It's like a shot of espresso. It was just weird.
I noticed that.
Although I thought they were just going to forget about it and lose the continuity, but they actually keep up with the continuity up for all those scenes up until he sets it down on the counter. I was like, that was weird. Why did he have that espresso? So I'm hoping Tenet 2 kind of clarifies where he needs caffeine or something and orders himself an espresso or some weird shit.
If he didn't drink it, he would have died.
I can't wait for. Here's my pitch for Tenet 2 that I think will happen at the beginning. I think Tenet 2's opening will be the same as the opening from Tenet, the first Tenet. Except it's going to be the whole opera house scene, except we're going to be seeing it from Neil's perspective when he goes in. Because we know that it's Neil because of the thing on the bag. So I think that would be the way to do it. Would be you start the movie off and it's the exact same thing, the intensity and everything, but it's Neil going in, and we realize there's some other shit going on with that opera. that leads me to a question, and I have plenty of questions about this movie that hopefully you guys can answer. He mentions the opera several times to Sator. Was Sator at the opera? I don't understand what the opera has to do with the rest of the movie.
He was. Those are his men, I believe, that tortured him.
What were they doing?
They were trying to.
They were looking for that piece in the backpack.
The Plutonium.
Okay, I didn't make the connection because to me it was like this guy, the protagonist, is some CIA guy. He's doing something. He ends up taking the tablet, and then separately, the TENET organization or whatever is like, "Hey, we like what you did there. You killed yourself. We like your guts. Let's add you to the team." And I didn't even connect that it was the same thing. So then later, when he's like, "Do you like opera?" and the guy gets uncomfortable, I was like, "What?" I didn't know that was that makes sense. That was dumb of me. Cut it.
Clip it.
It's the thing we do on the show.
Clip it. What was it? What else you got, Christy, for us?
Yeah.
Well, I guess just bouncing off that, there was a part where Sator even mentions like the safe word is something about Twilight, right? Like we live in a Twilight world, and Sator says that at one point to the protagonist in a way.
I thought that was
and the protagonist
Really?
plays it off, and he's like, "Oh, that's like what Waltman or something," and he moves on. But like, was that Sator acknowledging something like that he knew that he had been a part of that CIA team? I couldn't decide.
I'm only
if that
thinking
was
of this
intentional
now,
or not.
but we do know that the other people on the team snitched.
Well, right. So that's
So
why.
I wonder if that's what it is that he was testing the guy like, "Oh, I know the phrase because we learned it from some other CIA guy."
Right.
I'll say the phrase. If the guy responds to it, then I'll just kill him because I know that he's part of it.
Yeah.
That may be fan theory. But.
Yeah. It was just interesting. There was all of the dialogue felt so intentional after watching it the second time. Like there were really subtle things that they would like use the same words over and over that were really interesting.
Yeah.
Like instincts and stuff. Like both the protagonist would say something about like it's all instinct, and then Sator would say the same kind of thing, and it was just interesting.
I'll just say this: I respect Nolan a lot because, especially like movies like Inception, Interstellar, this movie, he definitely like allows the audience to kind of put the puzzle pieces together themselves without spelling it out.
Yeah.
Like he seems to have a really great respect for regular moviegoers.
Yeah.
I think maybe to a fault, especially in this movie, but the respect is there. Like it's very like admirable that he does that.
I have another Matt's nitpick. Matt's nitpicks of the week.
Nitpick.
Oh. Is it cold in here, or is there a couple Tic Tacs in your shirt? Sorry.
Flip it.
Speaking of cold, so they talk about in the movie how if you're near fire and you're reverse entropy, the reverse of the oxygen or whatever freezes.
That was
and
cool.
then when he's in that, but here's the thing that's done that I didn't get. When he's in the car and it reverse explodes, the window freezes up. But the car wasn't reversed. He was. Why did the car get cold? Because in a normal explosion, a car's not going to get cold when it explodes. And that car was moving forward, not backward. Or was the car reversed as well?
No, I don't know. I agree that it doesn't make sense. I'm just trying to like think out like why.
Unless
it might
he
be.
was near it, so maybe
but,
it
like,
caused
he was
it to
so
get
close that like the cold
the heat on
his
him.
body being so cold. I don't know.
I don't know, Nolan. Email me
did
on that one.
Did it have something to do? Did it have something to do with his mask being off at the time? Like I don't know if that had anything to do
maybe
with
it was his oxygen or something. I mean, I'm sure there's an explanation, but I thought it was, to me, supposed to be a cool thing where they're showcasing, like, look, because it's reverse. And I was like, but I don't think the car was reverse.
Yeah.
I thought he was just reverse. Speaking of which, to me, the moment the movie gets wacky in a good way is the moment we see the car driving in reverse. Because
Yeah.
before that, we've literally seen a
Yeah.
couple bullet holes in the wall. This is like an hour into the movie. We see like him shooting the reverse gun and the gold bars or whatever. That's the first moment where you see a fucking reverse car going down the highway and you're like, what the fuck is going on? And to me, I mean, it's so overwhelming the first time I watched it. The scene where where the two different sides of the turnstile, where he gets
Yeah.
sit on the chair, and then all of a sudden a SWAT team comes in and kills him, and I'm like, who are these guys? Whose team is this on? How does he hear him if it's in reverse? What's going on? It's like, what the fuck? Like, that scene is so like overwhelming because you're
Yeah.
like, what the hell is
It
happening?
is. It encapsulates my feelings about this movie. It's like I don't know what the fuck's
Hey, but
going
your heart
on,
was
but
beating.
damn, it looks cool. It looks cool.
Well,
Exactly.
well, because in the car chase, the first thing we see that kind of shows the people going in reverse is when he rolls down the window and he has the mask on and has the gun to her head, right? Because we last see him going, tell me everything, and he goes into the corner in that room because he's listening to what his reverse self is doing, right?
Yeah.
So we see the car a reverse flip back, normal, and we go through the whole race and go in the room, and he's talking backwards, and they say blue room, red room, and that's a confusing scene. And then, but once you go into the other side and watch it from Satar's position, then it makes a
Yeah.
lot more sense to me.
Yeah.
I think real quick they kind of, because like Sterling was saying, like for Nolan, he wants you to kind of put the puzzle pieces together. That scene, he kind of real quick knows this is a really in depth like puzzle piece scene, and he kind of seals it, puts it together for you real quick when he shoots
Yeah.
her, like shows him going, in that room. But that's just
Yeah.
me.
It was a
Uh,
great scene
I,
regardless.
yeah. I'll just say this. Like, I don't doubt that all the pieces are there for you to kind of figure out what's going on, especially watching it multiple times. But I don't know. I kind of feel like maybe it's unfair to compare it to Inception, but I just feel like Inception did a better job balancing the complexity of its story, but also giving way more of an emotional payoff, and things weren't as convoluted. I just think it balanced that complexity with emotional payoff a lot better than this movie did. That's just my opinion.
Well, this movie was a lot more complex, and
Well, for sure.
the negative that to help your what you just said was this movie was more fast paced, which is a negative. Which with Inception was, I thought, more well paced out. They kind of went scene from scene. This one went from scene to scene a little quicker. And in that car chase scene, they don't, because like you said, this movie more than ever made you kind of put the pieces together, and then they go, but then they answer some of the answers, they answer some questions, leave some questions unanswered. So I think he did that a lot more. And I think, like you said earlier, that he just said he went full bore in this movie and said, "Hey, I want to do what I want to do. You guys figure it out later. This is my idea."
Yeah.
In Inception and Interstellar, he laid it out a little more, dumbed down for us for us folk.
Yeah.
If you can for these movies. But that's what I would say to that. This one's
Sure.
not paced as well as Interstellar
I will
or Inception.
say the lingering question at the end of Inception, where we see the dreidel spinning, and it's kind of this implication like, is Leo Jewish or not? That was actually a very interesting little ploy that I thought Nolan did, because I was the whole movie. You're like, is Leo? Wait, is he Jewish or not? You can't tell because they never mention whether his mom's Jewish, and that's actually important in the Jewish religion. And then
Oh
when
my
that dreidel
God.
was spinning at the end, I was like, oh shit, Nolan, you fucking
Uh,
did it again.
Sterling, I'm out. I'm out.
I'm out.
No, reverse it.
I don't.
Sorry.
I don't want the. I don't want the
Cut
Jewish
it.
question.
Hey, I had to.
Christy, answer me this. Um, where? Okay, I wrote this down. Going back to that car chase scene, when he goes back in reverse,
Mm-hmm.
and you know how he tricks the guy Satar with the plutonium. Where is the plutonium when he throws it in the car? I watched that scene a couple times back. I'm like,
Oh yeah.
where did it end up going?
I don't, actually, that one I feel like I understood more the first time that I was watching it. I felt like the second time that I watched it, I got too caught up in like, oh, I know what I'm doing and like I know where to look or whatever, and I didn't really see like where it actually was. Like, did he leave it in?
Are we talking about the first time through?
Yeah, the first time through.
Well, they show it in reverse, and they from the guy when he's in the car and he sees himself in the other car, and he throws the box across the hood, but he throws the piece, the puzzle piece, whatever, and it goes in the back of the seat. They don't answer anybody picking it up.
They show it. It goes out the window, and one of Sator's henchmen grabs it.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it sucks out the window or whatever, and one of Sator's guys grabs it.
I just remember them showing the orange box on the side of the road.
No, I remember. Well, I know because I remember. You're talking about the part where he's in the car and it's bouncing around in the back seat.
Yes, yes. Where did it go?
The window, and Sator's guy catches it.
Sterling, I believe you.
I'm almost positive that it showed a guy in a suit catch it in the car.
You may be right. Maybe I'm wrong, but what I remember is that he took out the plutonium or whatever it was. He put it in the back of his car that he was driving in reverse or whatever, and then Sator made it to where it's really hard to explain this, but basically Sator made it to where the piece would go back into the orange container, and then he would go back in reverse, and then whenever the protagonist would throw the orange container to him, then it would be in the container when he got it. I know that's convoluted. That's convoluted, but I'm just saying that's all I remember.
I know what you're saying. You're right that he takes it out of the container.
Yeah.
He tricks him.
But
that's why Sator walks up to him.
You know what?
And he does all the blue room, red room to interrogate. Where is it? Where is it? And they go in reverse.
It shows it.
I'm so confused.
It does explain where it's at. Sterling may be right. I just know that at one point it showed the henchman grab it, and maybe it was after
I hope you're right.
Got it.
I hope you're right that it wasn't just that reverse thing that Sterling. Sorry, Sterling. That's even more confusing to me.
I gotta watch this movie again.
The forward and the reverse are the same. Like aren't they? Like I don't know. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting. I didn't see where it went. Matt, I hope you're right.
I wrote a question about the heist scene, the truck heist scene as well, and I don't even know what this means. I said, "Who's he working for?" I think the movie answered that. But here's what I was wondering. Here's why I was wondering: is the dude there's all these guys that are just like with him to go get the.
They work for Neil, I think.
Yeah, I guess Neil knows them, which means that technically they're working for the protagonist.
Because he hired him. Because Denzel Jr. wanted him to hire him.
Yeah, he eventually hires them.
Here's this loophole I found. Or not a loophole, but a loophole. How do they know?
Please tell me.
How do they know, and tell me if I saw this any other time. There's actually two things that happen around the same time that I didn't catch. Get this, lads. Cut that. They go, okay, so they're going backwards through time to fix the one girl's wound or whatever, where she got shot.
Yes.
They end up having to go in. It's probably my favorite scene in the movie when they go back to Oslo Airport or whatever, and they go through the machine. Now they're going forward in time.
Yes, I know what you're going to say.
All of a sudden, at one point, they're just on that ship, and they're going backwards in time again. Which turnstile did they go into to go backwards in time? Because they're going forward in time from the Oslo airport, right? And then he's like, okay, when did this son of a bitch drop dead or whatever? And she's like, December 14th in the Alamo or whatever, Vietnam. And then they go, and then they're like, okay, we know the date. And then all of a sudden it just shows a ship going backwards. He's doing front ways push-ups. And he goes inside. Did they ever explain like where he's going, where they went into a turnstile again? I guess we assume that.
Are you talking about before? No. Are you talking about when while they're healing her, trying to go back to the airport?
No,
You're.
after,
Oh, after.
because they're
Oh, no.
reversed.
Now they're going. Oh, you're right. You're right. Now
There's
yes.
some there's
Where
some
did they go
skip.
backwards again?
Well,
Where did they go backwards
Yes,
again? Now,
I got
hit it,
yes.
Christy,
well,
because we did
I'm
talk
just
about it.
asking, like, are we just to assume that like the good team has a turnstile that they
Yeah.
use for training?
That's what we
and
realized.
So
The next scene
because
does show
I mean, they
her.
do show them all being very familiar with it. Like
Shows
they've
them
gone through
all
kind
the
of like
soldiers are
boot
going
camp
back.
where
Yeah.
they know how to
So they have a
act when they're
turnstile.
going. So like we just assume that they went through the turnstile that the protagonist's force has.
But
Yeah, they
so
made us
they
assume that.
It
But
is,
you're right. They
makes
skipped
sense.
over that part. I agree.
And
Yes.
they didn't
on
really
the same
show it. They
scene-
just said it. Yeah.
in the same scene when they're on the ship talking, and she's healed up and they're on that ship in the ocean or whatever, they're just like, all of a sudden they just explain that what Sator's Fitbit is connected to his heart or whatever, and that when it stops, it kills everyone. That's fine. I think that's great. The guy was monitoring his heart. That makes sense. It just didn't explain how they got that information or how they knew that.
Yeah, you're right.
From her, from the wife.
But does she? Well, maybe that's a good point. But does she know anything about the time thing? Like, why would she know the world was going to end? Because she didn't know anything about it before. She just thought he was a time stealer.
It's the CIA. They do
But
what they
it's
do.
hard because I'm not necessarily trying to say gotcha, Christopher Nolan. Like you fucked up. It might be in the movie, but after watching it twice, I didn't even think about it the first time. This time I was like, "That's weird. When did they get that information?"
That's true. Yeah, where did it come from? Well, the future. Here's okay. I wasn't going to talk about this, but
No,
it says in the beginning they say they can communicate with the future. That's what Sadar's doing. Maybe that's what the good guys are doing too. That they figure that out from maybe you're right earlier that there are two bad guy good guy teams. There's a bad guy and a good guy team.
Yeah.
And Denzel Jr. is in charge of the good guy team, and he's the one that sent that info from the future. Maybe that's how they.
You're right.
You know.
And see, that's the exposition that was decided. Backing on kind of what Sterling said. There's parts that move fast like that you could have still kept vague. We don't exactly know what's going on in the future. We don't know this stuff in a good way. But there's some points where if they just said we're communicating with the future and the future team has these turnstiles and TENET is an organization in the future. Just a couple of clarifying things. Like, because we're already assuming that, but just a couple clarifying things I think would have maybe made some of those things good. But I also understand that it's precarious because you don't want to give too much information or it kind of ruins the vagueness of it. Close up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're frozen for me, but anyway.
You're not frozen.
Yeah, it's very vague. Yeah, because I guess I wrote that down. How do they communicate with the future? I was very confused about. I never heard that explanation. Yeah, so.
Yeah.
But I guess it's one of those ones they want you to figure out yourself. Like
I think that's the problem with the pacing. I don't have all the answers, but I just felt like there could have been moments where they just kind of slowed down, just for a second or a minute or whatever, and just maybe not just exposition it to death, but show it.
That's a good point. Yeah, because I think that fast pacing worked in some of the scenes. For instance, when they're setting up the Oslo heist thing, that's where the pacing worked, and it was pretty cool. Where it's like it's because we don't. It was kind of showing them as if it's different times they've been planning this thing for like a few days, and it's kind of showing the highlights of the conversations, like how are we gonna get in? And he's like, well, I looked at this and in that kind of Ocean's 11 style and all that. It's like that is where the pacing worked. Like it was fast, but you understood what was going on. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think that's actually a fair criticism. I think I would have been okay if the movie was even a little longer to do that. But I also know it was already a 2.5 hour movie, so it's a juggle.
It is.
Christy, what do you got?
It's admirable for sure.
Anything else?
I don't know. I'm not the movie schmuck pro here.
Movie schmuck pro. You're the fucking. We're going to you for the answers over here.
You're the president and CEO.
That's right.
Like,
You're
what are you
not a
talking
schmuck.
about?
I am the protagonist.
Yeah, you're the fucking.
Yes.
Exactly.
I do have one big thing I was gonna
I do.
say. My biggest flaw with the movie, the first time I watched it, the second time, my mind cracked open like a fucking hard-boiled egg, and I figured out what had happened. Tell me, do you guys think? Because this gets into philosophical thing. One of the things I am with Neil in the movie as far as he kept saying, "What's happened happened. You can't change the past. If you could, we wouldn't know it," and all that stuff. Do you guys think that you can? And what did you think of her shooting the guy? And how that ties into the timeline. And maybe I'm
You're talking about the grand. Are we talking? Yeah.
Because
Are we talking about the grandfather paradox?
yes.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love that. I've been waiting for this.
Well, here's where I was confused the first time. I'll tell you what happened the first time I watched it. I loved that in the movie consistently, every time he does try to stop something, every time someone tries to save something, it ends up playing out the same way it played out in Forward. And I like that because I think that scientifically that seems to be the most accurate. We can't I think that to me I like that theory. I mean, I guess I'm not saying it's true or false, but I definitely like the idea that what the
Uh-oh.
Oh, thank God. That was going to fuck the whole show
Oh.
up. I mean, we have our stations here.
Cut
okay,
it.
So
go.
So here's what I'm saying.
Keep on saying what you're
clarify.
saying.
Here's what I'm saying. I'll try not to be so wordy. But the thing was, I was really annoyed the first time I watched the movie when she shoots the guy because I was like, what the fuck? That just shows that you can change the past because she kills him on the boat in the past. And I thought that it was so cool, the thing that she was the person diving off the boat that she saw and all that. Now, I'm probably dumb, but I didn't realize till the second time I watched it, the satyr on the ship is the satyr from the future. He went back. I literally thought it was the satyr in the past that got shot. And I was like, that fucks up the whole thing because then it's like you can change the past. But if that is Satyr from the future, and there's all the clues to show that it is, he comes back, and that's why he knows who the protagonist is when he's talking to him on the phone. That's why he says love for my wife, even though he wouldn't have known that they even had a connection at that point. So it's clear that was his future Satyr, and then he dies. I was so glad when I noticed that the second time because I was going to be so pissed because that means that everything that happens, whether they went back in time or not, played correctly forward. That nothing was ever altered by time. It all played out the right way. Anyway, that was my big discovery the second time watching it.
Well, that's what I wanted to talk about was that was a very very in depth conversation they had, very short, but with what's his name, the Neil character, trying to explain to him, hey, some people think you can go back and slit your grandfather's throat and you'll still be it won't change anything, won't change the past, or you're still alive. And it's a very philosophical. It's very unreal. I guess obviously unrealistic, but how does that work? Because are they going to make a second movie to go more in depth about with the protagonist and how he sets everything up, and does he try? I don't know. I think it's a cool conversation. I'm not sure if you guys want to have it now, but
Go ahead, Sterling.
Did Avengers Endgame kind of touch on this a little bit about?
Well, they tried They tried. Yeah. That was that funny scene about talking about Back to the Future's bullshit.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Yeah.
Here's my personal theory on it: is that I think. Okay, I was thinking about this. This is a good way to summarize it. When when the protagonist first is reversed and he first walks outside and for the first time, he goes to step in a puddle and the puddle reacts when he starts putting his foot down. And I thought to myself, well, what if he just didn't put his foot into the puddle? then did it just react for no reason? And then I realized either he's going to put his foot in the puddle and it reacts, or he never would have put his foot in the puddle. I think it's a determinism argument that you wouldn't kill your grandpa. And if you would, it wouldn't like the way I have the idea is that either you're not going to be able to, if you tried to go back and do it, something's going to get in your way, or you're just going to be the person who wouldn't do that. Like, I think that deterministically, it just can't actually happen. If you were to kill your grandpa, then it would have never happened anyway. So it's like either you're not doing it or you are. But if you're either not doing it or we're not in a universe where you did anyway. So it doesn't matter. It's like you didn't kill your grandpa. That's the paradox. It's like that you didn't kill him, and there's no universe where if there's some universe where you did, it doesn't matter. That's my theory.
I like that. Yeah, you get stopped every time you try or something. I like that way of thinking about it. Like, you can't do it. Yeah. Certainly.
Is there an alarm going on?
Yeah, it's probably a smoke alarm.
Oh,
that was so casual. This dude's house burning down and he's giving a review. I know.
Caden's making bacon again.
It's okay, guys. The fire will just turn to ice and then reverse.
Oh God. I mean, I think you kind of shelved it right there, Matt. But Christy, do you agree? Do you agree with that, Christy?
Goober's giving me a kick in the nuts on this.
So, like, in the briefing that chick gives him, like, she even tells him, like, don't make sure you don't run into your past self and everything. But then he does do that, and I guess all the factors kind of combine so that he doesn't kill himself. So I don't know if that goes with. I think that goes with what you were saying. Like, she tells him, "Hey, it'll be annihilation if you run into your own." Like, I think she even says atoms. Yeah.
She said, "Don't touch each other." She said.
But then he's touching himself a bunch. Well, so is it like a consciousness thing?
Well, he doesn't.
Oh, mind blown! You're so right.
Was touching himself. But he was. So would it have blown his mind if he knew that it was him?
My mind's blown every time I touch myself. But here's what I'm saying. Sorry, I had to. No, that's a good point. Does it have to be skin? Because they never touch skin to skin.
Well, or do you have to?
They don't.
Be
he
aware.
Never touches his skin.
Well, right. Like, but is self-awareness part of that? Like, if he was aware.
I think if he was aware, right? Maybe. Well, I think biologically, if the idea is that your atoms or whatever can't touch, then it doesn't matter whether you're a mile away or just a line of fabric. If you're not touching yourself, you're not touching yourself. This is going to be taken out of context.
Or it's what you were saying, where it's everything will just work out so that.
And that's more the philosophical thing, right?
I guess so. I don't know. Because all the factors, he almost kills himself several times.
I look at it.
He just barely misses. So I don't know.
So I would say this: if the awareness or whatever fucked it up, or if him doing the wrong thing or killing himself or whatever, then he wouldn't know that because he would have killed himself. So you can only be self-aware in the universe where you don't kill your grandpa or you don't kill yourself. Because if you were in the universe where you did, we wouldn't be having the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's fair.
If he was aware that he was kind of the architect of TENET or whatever, do you think he would have been annihilated if he was aware?
Maybe. I can't wait for
probably
TENET
not.
5.
That's a guy. I forgot about that. Yeah, you must be skin to skin. Going back to that, complete. Which brings me to this. My one thing I did not write down, which I was so confused about when I watched it the third time. You know how you got to see yourself go in and or come out to know that it's gonna work. You know, when you go into the turn. What are they called? Turnouts or whatever.
The turnstile.
I'm thinking way too in depth about it. How is it that they just randomly, that he appears twice? I was thinking, how many protagonists are there at the same time in that scene at the airport when the doors open?
Oh, right.
And he comes out and runs into Neil and fights himself. At that point, there's 3 protagonist. Am I thinking two? How was he there? How did he appear?
Well, there's only one really.
But there are three.
But there can only be
because
two at a
there's the one
time.
in that time that's just going through time normally. There's the one that's moving backwards through time, and then there's the one that's on Neil's side that's moving forwards through time.
Yeah, they could all three touch each
So
other.
they're all
She's
there in that moment simultaneously somehow. But
yes.
Who's the third? There's the reverse one. There's the forward one.
And the forward one, and the past one.
There's the one that
But
was
where's the
originally
present
there.
one? Isn't that just the forward one?
Well,
Fighting himself. He's fighting himself.
Protagonist in his suit.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
straight
Yeah.
from
There's
espresso.
three. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
The
Is this how the
one.
Trinity works?
I think the official.
You guys understand why my mind is so like?
Yeah.
What? Okay, they just randomly run out together because we never see them go in. Remember that when they're like, "We're not alone." You know, Neil says, "We're not alone" in the beginning, and they're like, they're trying to open the doors in the thing, and they're like, "Oh, hey, don't touch that! It hasn't happened yet with the bullet holes." I'm like, but don't they have to walk in to the turnout for like? You can see I'm confused. They were in there the whole time.
No.
Sterling, you understand what I'm saying?
No,
I'm so
right.
It's
so
only one.
confused.
That's actually
So
the two, one in reverse, one forward. That's really only one person. We're just seeing two frames of time at the same time, but it's one person.
But they're in the same present. She knows what I'm saying, though.
Well,
They can all three touch each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy because like he does come in like when the door blasts. Like when it looks like he's falling out the door, he's actually running in the door, and then he gets in the turnstile. But in that moment, now I just confused myself.
Well, there's three of them. There's three of them.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm getting. What's the turnstile thing? What's the confusion on the turnstile?
I'm not sure.
Let me say this.
But they're all. It's so confusing.
It is.
It's a paradox.
But let me throw this at you, and Sterling, tell me you agree with me. Wouldn't you be, if you were constantly going through these turnstiles, you were part of the TENET organization, wouldn't you be afraid to take a shit? Because what if you took a shit and then listen, hear me out. Because trust me, I've been having.
You live with this, Christy.
You take
you
a
live
shit,
with this,
and then you go into the turnstile, like you walk out of the bathroom. Ooh, I'm refreshed, and then your boss, Denzel Jr. comes out and says, "We need you for the mission," and then you got to go reverse, and I'm like, "Well, no, you got to go reverse." And you go through the turnstile, and all of a sudden you gotta like, and like shit just shoots right up into you.
Wait. The poop goes back into your intestines. What?
Yes. Right?
Oh my god!
Are you not terrified?
No, you're not.
Happening?
That would have made this movie 10 out of 10 for me, to be honest.
10 out of 10.
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
If they did that.
All right, cut that whole thing.
Oh my gosh! Like I think I have to watch this like 10 more times just to figure that scene out. But
let's give some final thoughts because my
I got one more. I got one more thing. If Christy and Matt can help me out here.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Indian chick, the bullet manufacturer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why did the blonde have to die?
Because she was compromised.
Why did the girlfriend have to die?
She was a loose end.
She knew too much.
Why? She was living her life. Who's she gonna go tell that's gonna believe her?
That's a good point.
I
don't remember. There was some. I don't remember the.
She just wanted her kid.
I don't remember why.
She got her kid and was living her life.
Well,
that's not a loose end.
They kept on saying. Go ahead.
No, sorry. I was just gonna say, like, it's the same thing where, like, they said nobody who knows what happened can leave, So technically, like,
they kept making that a point.
And that other guy, the military guy, and the protagonist.
Oh, they have to kill themselves.
They would need to kill themselves or kill each other or whatever. But
what? They had to kill themselves for what reason?
What would happen if you shot yourself in the head in a turnstile and it turned around?
And Christy, I'm genuinely confused. I do remember that scene when the three of them standing there. Nice, thanks, Matt. What was that? What was the meaning? Because I didn't. I guess I don't understand the meaning.
I
Like
don't
they,
know. I
or
guess
is he
that was
saying that they all have to die?
yeah, like that was their orders that nobody who went, like nobody that was in the splinter team could walk away from it. Like they were supposed to die. But then he makes that statement. He's like, when you die, that's each man's decision to make for themselves.
But is he saying that he's gonna go back and go kill his whole team that was in the on
No, the team,
the
the
mission?
splinter team was just those three.
That's why it
Neil,
was just them.
Neil, Styles, or whatever, Biles,
Oh,
whatever.
Ives.
Oh,
Ives, yeah.
that knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
Neil knew everything. So
I'm sorry. I just thought it was. And why was the manufacturer chick in charge of that part about killing her? Like she was just he was just coming there to talk to her about getting information. Like I thought that was, to me,
Well,
a negative, not making sense to me. Like why she
I
had to
mean,
be the one to kill her, and B, why she was going to kill
I
her.
almost feel like they almost did it just to fully show the fact that he was in charge or whatever. Because otherwise, it almost seems like, okay, why was it so important to kill her? But I also
sure.
I think it's fair to say, well, they did it because it was a loose end, because that was her thing.
Yeah.
You know,
That's the thing. Like Trey, what you're saying is like logical. Like it does logically make sense. What you're saying should have happened. Like they should have let her go. But it's like they kept on saying, like, especially for the CIA, like they kept on saying we're in a business of like tying up loose ends, basically.
Yeah.
Like no one
Okay,
outside
that's
of our
fine.
organization can find
It was
out.
cool to see her get shot. That's cool. I liked it. the bad guy died.
Exactly.
Denzel Jr. is turning to Denzel Senior. I like it.
I know we're
He's
all
evolving.
I know we're all just asking each other's questions to see who the fuck knows this shit. But what? Okay, the bungee jumping in the movie. What exactly? How exactly are they getting up the building? Like, what is the thing connecting to? I don't understand that. And I'm probably
that
dumb.
was a little confusing.
I was thinking the last night watching it that maybe the materials were reversed.
I thought that too. That was the main thing. The only thing that would but here's my thing with that is the way they move in the air looks forward. But I guess if they're not reversed,
they are, yeah.
But the material is maybe that correct, because there's one little shot, and maybe I'm wrong here, but it was so quick, where it actually looked like when he threw the jumpy thing that the like black cable kind of went like wrapped around in reverse. So I was kind of thinking maybe it was reverse, but it was weird because they didn't even just a moment. If they said like if it was reverse, they should have had a moment where it was like reverse jumbo cables. We'll throw them up, or whatever, and then they do it. But instead, it was just they just do it, and it's like, how are they getting up the building? It looked cool, I'll say that. But
just like all his movies, we could talk about all these details.
I haven't seen Inception since I was like 13, and I don't remember it at all. So I think we need a review.
Oh, we should. Yeah. Christy, you've seen it?
Yeah, I actually and I watched it as an adult like a year ago, and it was really, really good. Like I liked so much more than when I was a kid, and just didn't understand it.
I love how she put that in there. I watched it a year ago. I was an adult. You said you were a kid.
Okay. Anyone have anything else before we wrap up?
Just one quick little thing. I did like the last line that Neil said to the protagonist. Looks like this is the end of a beautiful friendship. I thought that was really good. It's a callback to Casablanca for any of you film nerds.
That.
So
nerds. No, I love that.
Good line.
That was great.
Yeah.
I think we should do this Sterling first, since he's the most negative, so we can end on a positive note, and Christy last because she's the guest.
Okay. Okay. So overall, I think this was a positive experience. I think even though there was a lot of convoluted elements to this movie, I still was never bored during my time watching it, and I think a lot of that has to do with how creative some of the sequences were, especially the car chases, or the main car chase. I thought was really cool. just seeing all the reversals, the forward cars. Um, I think the scale of the movie was very impressive, especially the third act. I think I I think the pacing could have been tweaked quite a bit because even though it was trying to go for that frenetic pace, I think there were things left to be desired as a result of the quick pace. There were just things in the story that didn't make sense or didn't have an emotional payoff. Because I think there were just things that, while they're probably there in the movie, I either missed it or it just didn't land with me because of the way things were cut a lot of the time. So I think overall, it's not my. It's probably not a top five film for me in terms of Christopher Nolan's repertoire. Um, but overall, it is definitely worth watching. And I mean, just watch. I mean, watch this conversation tonight. The conversations around this movie are really fun, and they're really, really insightful. And I think that has a lot of value. A lot of value, honestly. So I can appreciate the film from that level. It creates a lot of discussion.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah. I'll go.
okay.
uh, I think that. Okay, I was going to make a joke about T Sterling, but I
I
uh,
know you were.
I have a lot of I do have a lot of nitpick stuff with this movie, but obviously how I started out with my overall thoughts about it. I actually loved it, and just like Matt and Christy, love a movie that makes you think and I like movies that are so good and make you invest in it that make you want to watch it again. Because I'm a movie person more than a TV guy, and even though it's a long movie, I really enjoyed watching this a second, and third time. And this conversation, Christopher Nolan's so good at making these movies that and having these ideas, making the audience think, and not just sit there and throw popcorn in your face and slip down this high fructose corn syrup drink, and gotta take a piss every hour in the theater. Like I just love a movie like these are like this is it. This is a blockbuster, and this was the epitome of it. This was even though it was the wrong time for the movie to come out. The pandemic that didn't get it wasn't that successful. It was even it was a great movie to actually be able to, because the theaters opened up at the time. The three of us were able to go see it in theaters, and I just loved being in the theater watching this, even though the music was really loud. I was like, I remember the first time being in the theater, like my eyes got real big. I'm like, holy crap, this is loud! Like I almost had to plug my ears. So I am negative in a lot of stuff in this movie. And there are some plot holes that could be filled up with a smarter person than I. But even with all the negatives, I love this movie. This is easily a top three, if not a top two movie. I'd have to go through Interstellar and Inception again to see where I rank it. But I mean, hats off to Nolan for creating such a visual spectacle and a mental spectacle. It was great.
Man, I don't know how to follow that. That was good. I think, especially reflecting on the conversation, it sort of makes me realize that there are a couple of things where it's like, okay, like maybe the pacing could have been better, and there's a lot of things juggling. I think the movie, it's one of the most complex movies I've seen as far as plot and trying to put all the pieces together, which is its strength and maybe its weakness at the same time. So it kind of depends on the mood you're in. I think for me, I hadn't been to a movie theater in a long time when I went to the theater to see it, and that probably definitely, like, just those after movie theater discussions are so good. And so it was, and it being like a perfect movie for conversations, I think it was just a great movie experience in that regard. Because to me, part of the movie experience of going to a theater and stuff is the conversations you have afterwards. And so it was the perfect movie for discussion. It's a movie that me and Christy bring up all the time, like just bringing up things about it that were interesting. I have to say, the originality of a time travel movies have been done a lot, and there's different ways that they've done them. This isn't a time travel movie, really. I mean, it's not a time machine movie. and they never really use the term time travel. It's the way they explain it, like it's reverse entropy. You're just reversing things as opposed to traveling through time. I kind of thought that was a really just new, original way to look at, I mean, like a time travel type movie. Um, and Nolan is just great at putting things together, even if this one was vague. But I think the rewatch value is good. Both times I watched it, I was invested. I didn't get bored. And part of that might be because I'm biased, in the sense of like, I like this shit. I like these discussions. I like the sci-fi stuff. I like the scientific stuff. I like the philosophical thing. I think I like the grandfather paradox. I love all that shit. I thought the acting was really good. I thought that especially the relationship between the wife and the husband, like, was like legitimately disturbing on some levels because it felt so like oppressive, the husband, and that was really great just that it could evoke that kind of emotion. And yeah, the score was great. Visually, it's just fun to watch, and the action sequences, as I think, like Sterling said, as far as Nolan, that hallway fight scene to me is one of the coolest fight scenes I've seen in a movie. Um, and it's cool because if you watch just that second scene out of context, it would be interesting. But the fact that you know everything, you watched it the first time, it's like back to like those, all of that together makes it like one of the coolest fight scenes I've seen. So, great movie to me. Probably would be definitely my top Nolan's. Um, but yeah, we'll have to go back and rewatch some of them and get the official ranking.
All right. Well, I think you guys like hit most of the stuff that I wanted.
Just the way I finished mine and you're like, okay. Anyway, not joking. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, like you guys touched on, I think a lot of the same things that I felt about it. As far as it being really good. My moment of like self-reflection, I think I can see why I would be more predisposition to be like emotionally attached to some of the plot elements, like with the mom and her son, and I think that just particularly pulled me in more, and that makes sense, because I have personal experience with that side of it, so I get it, and I really like time travel stuff too. Like I think I kind of disagree with the point, like it's not a time travel movie just because they don't say time travel specifically or like word it that way. Because I think my favorite time travel book, which is an Asimov book, they never like really call it time travel in that either, and they just I don't know. I think that's like the cool sci-fi thing where they just explain how this works and it makes you feel like it could be a concrete thing, and I don't know. So that aspect too, I liked about it a lot, and yeah, I thought it was just really good. It was really engaging for me. So
Clarification. I didn't say it wasn't a time travel movie. I said that they're not actually traveling through time.
Just let her get the last word.
Wait. Can we say that they do travel through time?
No, they're entropy. They're reverse entropy.
Yeah, but that's okay. But that's the
it's semantics.
But they are like moving backwards in time. Like that's what we were talking about with the Vietnam trip.
They
save this for part
what
2.
Do you mean by time?
Save this for part 2. All right, Christy, let's save all that for part 2. With Sterling watching it a second time, and finish off on a stronger note than Matt interrupting you.
No, that's what I was going to say. I can't wait to rewatch this movie.
Christy, you look like you changed a lot. When did you grow that beard?
What?
Yeah, thanks.
What?
I told Christy to redo the ending, and then you start talking, and you turn into Christy. That's the joke, numbnuts.
What? Oh my god!
All right, let's get the final note.
Hey, she loves it. Anyway, hey, that's a wrap. Like and subscribe. This is a great channel. We love you, and a special thank you to Christy because she was amazing on this episode. And thank you all to our viewers. You are all amazing.
With your best friends, Trey, Sterling, and Matt. the film Schmucks.